What happens when one of Hollywood's most unpredictable actors sits down at a live morning talk show table and the conversation goes somewhere nobody expected? What happens when strong personalities collide in real time, with no script to save the moment and no edit button to smooth things over? Make sure to subscribe to Chronicle Chat and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The cameras are already rolling. The audience is clapping as the co-hosts settle into their seats. Joy Behar smiles toward the crowd, holding her cue cards loosely in one hand. Joy says, "All right, we're back. Our next guest is an Academy Award winner, Golden Globe winner, writer, director, musician. He's done it all. Please welcome Billy Bob Thornton." The audience applauds loudly as Bill walks out. He gives a quick wave, shakes hands with the hosts, and sits down at the far end of the table. He looks relaxed, dressed casually, but there's a quiet seriousness in his expression. Joy leans forward slightly. "Bill, it's good to see you." Bill nods. "Good to see you too, Joy." Another co-host chimes in, smiling. "You've been busy as always. New project, new interviews, you never slow down." Bill gives a half smile. "I try not to." Joy flips through her cards. "Let's talk about the new series. It's darker than some of your earlier work. You play a morally complicated character." Bill shrugs lightly. "I've played a lot of morally complicated characters." The audience chuckles. Joy continues. "That seems to be your lane. The outsider. The guy who doesn't fit in." Bill responds calmly. "I think most people don't fit in. I just play them." There's a brief pause. The rhythm feels normal, easy. Another host jumps in. "Your characters often challenge authority. Is that something you relate to personally?" Bill tilts his head. "I question things. I don't think that's the same as challenging authority. I just don't automatically agree with everything I'm told." Joy raises an eyebrow slightly. "Well, that depends on who's telling you, right?" Bill looks at her. "No, it depends on what they're saying." The audience makes a soft, "oh" sound. Not dramatic, just sensing a shift in tone. Joy smiles, but it's tighter now. "You've made headlines in the past for some strong opinions. You don't exactly shy away from controversy." Bill nods slowly. "If you call having an opinion controversy, sure." Joy leans back. "Well, some people would say it's more than just having an opinion." The air changes just a little. One of the other hosts glances between them. Bill keeps his voice steady. "People are allowed to disagree with me. That's fine." Joy says, "Of course they are. But when you're a public figure, words matter. You know that." Bill responds, "Everybody's words matter. Not just mine." The audience claps lightly at that. Joy doesn't clap. She smiles again, but it's sharper now. "Sure. But you have a platform." Bill looks directly at her. "So do you." There's a louder reaction from the audience now, a mix of laughter and tension. One co-host quickly interjects. Okay, we all have platforms here." Joy laughs, though it sounds forced. "Yes, we do. That's why we're here." She flips a card down onto the table. "Let's be specific. You once said in an interview that you don't trust most media conversations. What did you mean by that?" Bill doesn't hesitate. "Exactly what it sounds like." Joy presses. "So sitting here right now, is this one of those conversations you don't trust?" Bill pauses for a second. The studio is quiet. "I don't know yet," he says calmly. There's a collective reaction from the audience, some gasps, some laughs. Joy's eyes widen slightly. "You don't know yet?" Bill keeps his tone level. "It depends on whether we're talking honestly or just trying to score points." The energy shifts again. A co-host tries to smooth it out. "I think we're always honest here." Joy nods quickly. "Very honest." Bill looks at her. "Good. Then let's be honest." Joy leans forward. "Are you suggesting we're not?" Bill answers. "I'm suggesting sometimes conversations on shows like this are more about creating moments than understanding people." The audience goes quiet. Joy responds, "That's interesting, because our audience expects real conversations. We don't manufacture moments." Bill gives a small shrug. "Then we're on the same page." Another host jumps in again, trying to lighten things. "Let's pivot slightly. Your character in the new series struggles with authority figures. Do you think that mirrors how you approach institutions in real life?" Bill answers carefully. "I think institutions should be questioned. That doesn't mean they're all bad. It just means they're not perfect." Joy says, "And yet when institutions push back, you seem surprised." Bill looks at her directly. "I'm not surprised by pushback. I'm surprised by misrepresentation." The audience reacts again, a mix of applause and murmurs. Joy crosses her arms loosely. Misrepresentation by who? Bill says, by anyone who takes a sentence out of context and builds a narrative around it. There's a brief silence. Joy replies, that happens everywhere. Not just on talk shows. Bill nods. I agree. Joy presses further. But you're here. On a talk show. Bill responds, and I'm answering your questions. The tension is subtle but unmistakable now. One co-host laughs nervously. This is getting spicy early. The audience laughs too, breaking the tension slightly. Joy smiles again. We like a little spice. Bill says, so do I. As long as it's real. Joy tilts her head. Are you implying we're not real? Bill sighs softly. I'm implying that sometimes questions come with assumptions built in. The audience lets out another low reaction. Joy sets her cards down fully now. Okay, let's clear that up. What assumption have I made? Bill looks at her steadily. That controversy equals irresponsibility. Joy responds quickly. If people are hurt by what you say, that's not just controversy. The room goes quiet again. Bill's expression tightens slightly. People can be hurt by disagreement. That doesn't mean the disagreement shouldn't exist. A few audience members clap. Others stay silent. Joy says, that's easy to say when you're not the one affected. Bill replies calmly, you don't know who I've been or what I've dealt with. There's a noticeable shift now. The conversation has moved away from promotion and into something personal. Another host tries again. Maybe we can focus on the show itself. Joy raises her hand slightly, not aggressively but firmly. No, this is important. Bill leans back. In his chair, arms resting casually, but his jaw is set. Joy says, when you speak publicly, especially about sensitive topics, don't you think there's a responsibility? Bill answers, there's a responsibility to be honest. Joy counters, there's also a responsibility to be thoughtful. Bill nods. Honesty and thoughtfulness aren't opposites. The audience murmurs. Joy's tone sharpens just slightly. But sometimes your honesty sounds dismissive. Bill's eyes narrow just a fraction. Dismissive of what? Joy answers, of people who don't share your perspective. Bill responds evenly, disagreement isn't dismissal. The room feels heavier now. One co-host whispers, half joking, we're only 10 minutes in. The audience laughs nervously. Joy doesn't laugh this time. She looks directly at Bill and says, so let me ask you plainly. Do you think this show misrepresents people? Bill pauses again. This time the silence stretches longer. I think, he says slowly, that sometimes shows like this decide what the story is before the guest even sits down. The audience gasps audibly. Joy's expression changes, no more smiling. That's a serious accusation, she says. Bill replies, calm but firm. It's not an accusation. It's an observation. The tension in the studio is now undeniable. Cameras capture close-ups. The co-hosts exchange glances. Joy leans in slightly. If you feel that way, why come here? Bill looks straight ahead, then back at her. Because I believe in conversations. Real ones. The audience reacts again, louder this time. And just like that, what started as a routine promotional interview has turned into something far more uncomfortable. The commercial break music hasn't played yet. And nobody at the table is smiling anymore. The cameras are still rolling, and you can feel that nobody expected the conversation to go here this quickly. Bill is sitting back in his chair, calm on the outside, but clearly not backing down. Joy is leaning forward now, elbows near the table, her expression serious. One of the co-hosts tries to lighten the air. I mean, Bill, you've done hundreds of interviews. Surely you don't think every show walks in with an agenda. Bill answers evenly, not every show. But some conversations start with a conclusion and work backward. The audience murmurs again. A few scattered claps. Others shift in their seats. Joy responds quickly. Are you saying we've already decided who you are before you sat down? Bill looks at her directly. I'm saying sometimes questions are framed in a way that suggests guilt before there's even an answer. Joy lifts her hands slightly. Guilt? Nobody said you were guilty of anything. Bill replies, when you lead with your controversial instead of tell us about your work, that sets a tone. The audience reacts with a louder mix of applause and surprise. Another host interjects carefully. But controversy is part of public life. It's not necessarily negative. Bill nods. I understand that. But controversy is often defined by whoever's holding the microphone. Joy doesn't hesitate. Or by what someone says. Bill responds calmly, yes. But context matters. There's a pause. Joy flips one of her cards over, but doesn't look at it. She's focused on him now. Okay, she says. Let's talk context. In a previous interview, you criticized what you called outrage culture. What did you mean? Bill folds his hands loosely. I meant that sometimes people react before they understand. Social media amplifies that. Joy jumps in. Or maybe social media gives people a voice they didn't have before. Bill nods. It does both. The audience gives a soft, thoughtful hum. Joy continues. But when you say outrage culture, some hear that as dismissing real concerns. Bill's tone stays steady. That's not what I said. I said outrage without listening isn't productive. Joy leans forward again. But who decides what's real, outrage, and what's not? Bill answers, we decide individually. That's the point. The conversation is no longer about his show. It's clearly about principles now. Another co-host speaks carefully. Bill, do you feel like you've been treated unfairly by the media? Bill hesitates for the first time. Sometimes, yes. Joy tilts her head. Unfairly how? Bill responds, by reducing complex opinions into headlines. Joy replies quickly, headlines summarize. That's their job. Bill looks at her. Summarizing isn't the same as simplifying to the point of distortion. The audience reacts again, louder this time. Joy's voice tightens slightly. That sounds like you're accusing journalists of distortion. Bill doesn't blink. I'm saying it happens. One co-host glances toward the producers off camera. The tension is obvious. Joy says, but you benefit from media too. You're here promoting a show. Bill nods. I respect the platform. That's why I'm speaking honestly. Joy responds, honesty doesn't mean you're right. Bill answers, I didn't say it did. There's a short silence. The kind that feels longer on live television. An audience member coughs. Someone laughs nervously. Joy says, it's interesting. You say you want real conversation, but when we ask direct questions, you seem defensive. Bill's eyebrows lift slightly. Defensive? Or responding? Joy fires back. When you suggest we've already decided who you are, that's defensive. Bill's voice lowers just a bit. When I walk into a question framed around damage and controversy, that's presumptive. The audience gasps again, this time louder. Another host quickly says, let's slow down. Joy turns slightly toward her. I am calm. Then she looks back at Bill. What damage are you referring to? Bill exhales slowly. Public damage. Reputation damage. The idea that one sentence can define a person for years. Joy replies, sometimes one sentence reveals a lot. Bill looks straight at her. And sometimes it doesn't. The back-and-forth rhythm is sharper now. Faster. Less polite. One co-host tries humor again. This is more intense than our political panel. The audience laughs briefly, but it fades quickly. Joy crosses her arms. Let me ask you something clearly. Do you believe public figures should be held accountable for their words? Bill answers without hesitation. Yes. Joy nods. Good. So when people push back, that's accountability. Bill responds, pushback is fine. Mislabeling isn't. Joy says, who labeled you? Bill pauses, then says, various outlets. Not necessarily this one. Joy presses. But you implied it could be this one. Bill answers, I said sometimes shows like this. The audience reacts again, a mix of, oh, and scattered clapping. Joy's tone sharpens. That's us. Bill meets her gaze. If the shoe fits. The audience erupts, louder than before. Some clap hard. Others gasp. The tension is undeniable now. Another host quickly raises both hands. Okay. Joy's face changes. She's no longer smiling at all. So now we're the problem? She asks. Bill stays calm. I didn't say that. Joy replies, you just did. Bill shakes his head slightly. I said sometimes formats can create narratives. Joy says firmly, our format is conversation. Bill responds, then let's have one without assumptions. Joy leans closer across the table. You keep saying assumptions. What assumption have I made about you? Bill answers, that questioning media equals attacking it. Joy counters immediately. You literally said you don't trust most media conversations. Bill nods. That's my experience. Joy replies, so why should viewers trust you if you don't trust the platform you're on? The audience reacts again, louder, divided. Bill answers carefully. Trust isn't blind. It's built. Joy says, so are you building trust right now? Bill's voice hardens slightly. I'm trying. A long pause. Another co-host softly says, We're all trying. The atmosphere feels heavy. The audience is quiet now, sensing this isn't playful debate anymore. Joy looks directly at Bill and says, slower this time, "Do you respect this show?" Bill doesn't answer immediately. The silence stretches. "I respect the idea of open dialogue," he says finally. Joy replies, "That wasn't my question." Bill looks back at her. "Yes, I respect the show." Joy nods once, but her expression doesn't soften. "Then understand why we ask tough questions," she says. Bill answers, "Tough is fine. Framed is different." The audience murmurs again. Joy exhales audibly. "You're splitting hairs." Bill replies calmly, "Precision matters." There's a sudden moment where both of them start speaking at the same time. Joy says, "No, what matters?" Bill says, "What matters is," they stop. The audience laughs nervously again. Joy gestures with her hand. "Go ahead." Bill continues, "What matters is that disagreement isn't hostility." Joy responds immediately, "It becomes hostility when you imply bad faith." Bill's jaw tightens slightly. "I haven't implied bad faith. I've described patterns." Joy shakes her head. "You're doing it again." The tension is now visible to everyone in the studio. A producer's voice can faintly be heard off camera, likely signaling time, but neither of them slows down. Joy says firmly, "Let's be honest. You came in prepared for a fight." Bill's eyes narrow slightly. "No. I came prepared to defend myself if needed." The audience reacts sharply to that line. Joy replies, "From what?" Bill answers quietly but clearly, "From being boxed in." There's a heavy silence. One of the co-hosts finally says, "We're going to need to take a quick break." But Joy isn't done. She looks at Bill and says, "Nobody boxed you in. You boxed yourself in the moment you decided we were against you." Bill leans back slowly. "I never said you were against me." Joy says, "You implied it." Bill responds, "You heard it that way." The audience gasps again. The music for commercial break starts playing faintly in the background. Joy shakes her head slightly, looking toward the camera now. "We'll be right back." But as the cameras begin to pull out, Bill can be seen saying something off mic, his expression serious. Joy responds quickly, and even though viewers at home can't hear the words clearly, it's obvious the conversation hasn't cooled down. The audience buzzes loudly as the show cuts to commercial. And backstage, the tension is only getting worse. When the show comes back from commercial, the energy in the studio feels completely different. The applause sign lights up, and the audience claps, but it's hesitant, not the usual cheerful rhythm. You can tell people are wondering what they just witnessed and what's about to happen next. Joy straightens her papers, though she hasn't looked at them in minutes. Bill sits with his hands folded, expression calm but firm. The other co-hosts exchange quick glances before the cameras lock back in. Joy forces a small smile toward the lens. "We're back with Bill Bob Thornton." The audience claps again, softer this time. Joy continues, "Before the break, we were having a spirited conversation." A few nervous laughs from the crowd. Bill nods slightly. "That's one way to put it." Joy turns toward him. "I just want to clarify something. No one here is trying to box you in. Our job is to ask questions that viewers are already asking." Bill answers, steady. "And I'm answering them." Joy responds, "But when you suggest that we're creating a narrative, that undermines the entire purpose of this show." Bill leans forward slightly now for the first time since the break. "Joy, I didn't say you personally created a narrative. I said that sometimes formats can do that." Joy cuts in. "But you said shows like this. That includes us." The audience reacts again, a mix of tension and anticipation. One co-host steps in gently. "Maybe we're talking past each other." Bill nods. "That's possible." Joy shakes her head. "No, I don't think we are. I think you walked in assuming hostility." Bill responds calmly. "I walked in expecting tough questions." Joy fires back. "And you got them." Bill replies, "And I answered them." Joy's voice tightens. But every answer came with a suggestion that we're somehow manipulating the conversation. Bill's expression hardens slightly. "I'm saying conversations in media aren't always neutral." Joy laughs sharply. "Nothing is neutral." Bill nods. "Exactly." The audience lets out a louder murmur. Joy continues, "So why single us out?" Bill answers, "Because I'm sitting here." There's a brief silence. Another co-host tries to shift things. "Bill, let's bring it back to your project for a second. Your character struggles with feeling misunderstood." Joy interrupts. "No, I'm not done with this." The audience reacts, some clapping, some surprised gasps. Bill leans back again, clearly aware this isn't cooling off. Joy looks directly at him. You keep saying you value open dialogue. But open dialogue means you accept that people might challenge you. Bill responds evenly. I do accept that. Joy replies, then why act like it's unfair? Bill pauses. Because challenge is different from framing. Joy throws her hands up slightly. There you go again. Bill's tone sharpens just a little. And there you go dismissing my point. The audience erupts, louder than before. One co-host says quickly, Okay. Joy looks genuinely frustrated now. I'm not dismissing you. I'm questioning you. Bill replies, it feels dismissive when the answer isn't acknowledged. Joy answers, I'm acknowledging it. I'm disagreeing with it. Bill responds, that's fine. But don't call it defensive when I respond. The audience claps at that line. Joy shakes her head. It is defensive. Bill's voice drops lower. Then we're defining words differently. Another co-host quietly says, this is getting intense. Joy turns slightly toward her. Because it matters. Then back to Bill. Let me ask you directly. Do you think this show is dishonest? The entire studio goes silent. Bill doesn't rush. He looks at the table, then back at Joy. I think any show can fall into patterns, he says carefully. Joy presses. That's not what I asked. Bill meets her gaze. I don't think you wake up trying to be dishonest. There's a ripple through the audience. Joy responds sharply. That's not an answer. Bill says, it is. Joy leans forward further than before. No, it's you avoiding saying what you clearly believe. Bill's jaw tightens. I've said what I believe. Joy replies louder now. Then say it clearly. The audience reacts with a loud mix of applause and shock. Bill finally says, firm and direct, I think sometimes this show prioritizes reaction over understanding. The audience explodes, half clapping hard, half gasping. Joy's face goes still. Reaction over understanding? She repeats. Bill nods once. Joy responds, that's insulting. Bill answers, it's my observation. Joy says, you've been here 20 minutes. Bill replies, I've watched for years. The tension is now at its peak. Another co-host attempts to intervene. Joy, maybe we. Joy cuts her off. No. If he's going to accuse us of that, he can back it up. Bill turns slightly toward the rest of the panel. I'm not accusing. I'm describing what I see as a viewer. Joy laughs incredulously. So now you're the media critic? Bill responds calmly. Everyone's a critic. Joy snaps back. Easy to criticize when you're not the one doing the job. Bill answers. I've done interviews for decades. I understand the job. Joy shakes her head. Then you should understand how unfair that sounds. Bill's voice is steady but firmer than before. And you should understand how it feels to be reduced to a headline. The audience claps loudly again. Joy gestures toward the crowd. See? That's reaction. Bill looks toward the audience briefly. That's engagement. Joy's frustration is visible now. No, that's you turning the room. Bill replies quietly. I'm answering honestly. Joy says, you're escalating. Bill responds, so are you. There's an audible, oh, from the audience. One co-host finally says louder, we need to reset. But Joy shakes her head. No, I'm not going to sit here and let the integrity of this table be questioned. Bill sits up straighter. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend narratives don't exist. The audience is buzzing loudly now. A producer can be seen just off camera, speaking urgently. Joy's voice rises. Nobody is creating a narrative about you today except you. Bill responds, matching her firmness but not her volume. That's not true. Joy says sharply, then what is true? Bill pauses, then says, what's true is I came here to talk about my work, and we've spent most of the segment defending the premise of your questions. The audience erupts again. Joy stands slightly from her chair, not fully, but enough to shift posture. Because you made it about that. Bill stays seated. No. I responded to what was asked. The co-host beside Joy places a hand lightly on her arm. Joy. Joy pulls her arm back gently but clearly frustrated. No, I'm tired of guests coming here and acting like we're villains for doing our job. Bill's eyes narrow slightly. I never called you a villain. Joy responds, you implied it. Bill shakes his head. You're hearing implication where there isn't one. The audience noise is now constant. Murmurs, whispers, scattered applause. A producer's voice can be heard more clearly now, saying, wrap it up. Joy turns toward the camera, visibly upset. We're going to take another break. Bill says quietly but audibly enough. Probably a good idea. The audience gasps again. Joy looks back at him sharply. Excuse me? Bill replies, calm but unyielding. It's heated. That's fine. But let's not pretend it isn't. Joy stands fully now. You know what? If you think this is so unfair, you don't have to stay. The audience erupts, shock, applause, disbelief. The other co-hosts immediately stand halfway, trying to calm the situation. Bill slowly stands up from his chair. The studio goes completely silent. He adjusts his jacket, looks at Joy, and says evenly, I didn't come here to fight. But I'm not going to sit here and be told what I meant. Joy responds, voice firm and raised, and I'm not going to let you question this table without pushback. A stage manager steps closer, just out of frame. Bill looks toward the audience briefly, then back at the table. And in that moment, it's no longer just a tense debate. It feels like something is about to break completely. The studio is completely silent for a second that feels much longer than it actually is. Bill is still standing beside his chair. Joy is standing too, one hand on the table, her expression tight and unfiltered. The other co-hosts are halfway out of their seats, unsure whether to physically intervene or let it settle. The audience doesn't know whether to clap, gasp, or stay quiet. Bill speaks first, voice calm but firm. I'm not walking off. I'm standing up because you told me I don't have to stay. Joy fires back immediately. I said if you feel it's unfair, you don't have to stay. Bill responds, and I don't think it's unfair to challenge me. I think it's unfair to tell me what I meant. The audience reacts again, louder murmurs now, some applause. One of the co-hosts finally steps in between them slightly, palms out. Okay, let's all take a breath. Joy shakes her head. No, because this happens too often. A guest comes on, questions the integrity of the table, then acts shocked when we respond. Bill turns slightly toward her, but keeps his voice controlled. I didn't question your integrity. I questioned the format. Joy responds sharply. That's the same thing. Bill says, it's not. The back and forth is quick now, overlapping at times. Joy, you said we prioritize reaction over understanding. Bill, I said sometimes the show does. Joy, that's us. Bill, that's a pattern, not a personal attack. The audience erupts again, divided clapping, scattered boos, audible tension. A producer walks closer to the table. You can see security staff at the edge of the set, not aggressive, but present. The cameras are still rolling. Another co-host speaks directly to Bill. We respect you being here, but you have to understand why that comment hit hard. Bill turns to her. I understand it hit hard. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Joy laughs in disbelief. So now you're doubling down. Bill responds, I'm clarifying. Joy's voice rises again. You are not going to come to this table and lecture us about how we do our jobs. Bill's tone stays steady, but his words are sharper. And I'm not going to be told I'm imagining patterns I've seen for years. The audience noise grows louder. It's no longer nervous laughter. It's full debate energy in the room. Joy gestures toward the audience. You see this? This is live. We don't script this. Bill answers, I know it's live. Joy replies, then stop acting like it's some manufactured trap. Bill says, I never used the word trap. Joy snaps back. You didn't have to. At that point, the executive producer steps directly beside the table. His voice is low but audible. We're cutting. Joy looks at him, frustrated. No, we're finishing this. Bill looks toward the producer, then back at Joy. I'm fine to finish. The producer shakes his head slightly. We're out of time. The audience groans, some disappointed, some relieved. Joy exhales sharply and turns toward the camera. Well, that was a conversation. There's scattered applause. Bill remains standing for a second longer, then slowly reaches for his microphone pack. A stage manager steps closer and quietly says something to him. Bill nods once. Joy says, still visibly upset, we invite guests here for dialogue. Real dialogue. Bill responds calmly, and I gave you one. Joy answers, you gave us an accusation. Bill shakes his head. No, I gave you an opinion. At that moment, security lightly approaches, not touching him, but clearly guiding the situation toward an exit. One of the co-hosts quietly says into her mic, Okay, I think we're done. Bill removes his mic and places it gently on the table. The audience reacts loudly again. Phones are clearly recording now. Joy sits back down heavily in her chair. Bill looks at the panel one last time. I respect strong women. I just don't respect being told what I meant. The audience erupts, a mix of applause and shock. Joy responds immediately. And I don't respect guests who question the integrity of this show. The producer signals again. The camera cuts wide. Bill is then escorted toward the side of the stage. Not dragged, not forced, but clearly guided off. The audience noise follows him as he exits. The show quickly transitions to a commercial bumper earlier than scheduled. And just like that, the segment is over. But that's not where the story ends. Within minutes, clips start circulating online. Short videos of the moment Joy stood up. The line where Bill said, "If the shoe fits." The moment he said the show prioritizes reaction over understanding. By the time the episode finishes airing in different time zones, hashtags are trending. Viewers are split. Some posts read, "Bill was right. He stayed calm the whole time." Others say, "Joy defended the show like she should." Guests don't get to attack the table. Clips of the exchange hit platforms within an hour. Commentary channels start breaking it down frame by frame. Entertainment blogs publish headlines like, "Heated clash ends with guest escorted off set." Producers from other networks comment anonymously that live TV always carries risk. By the afternoon, statements begin circulating. Sources close to production say the escort was standard protocol, when a segment runs over and tension escalates. Sources close to Bill say he felt misrepresented and stood his ground. The next day, Joy addresses it briefly at the top of the show. She says, "Yesterday's conversation was passionate. That's what happens when people care." She does not apologize. Later that week, Bill appears on another radio program and says, without naming names, "I believe in real conversations. Sometimes they get uncomfortable." Neither side fully backs down. And that moment, the sharp exchange, the escort off stage, becomes one of those viral talk show clashes people replay for weeks. Some viewers argue it was necessary tension. Others say it crossed a line. Media analysts debate whether live talk shows thrive on moments like that or suffer from them. But one thing is clear. It felt real. No cinematic music. No dramatic lighting. Just two strong personalities, live microphones, and no agreement. And that's why people are still talking about it. What do you think? Was Bill justified in pushing back? Did Joy go too far defending the show? Or was this simply what real, unfiltered conversation looks like when neither side backs down? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Chronicle Chat for more real talk show stories.